We all think about those flashing lights and sirens, right? Like when something bad goes down.
Right, of course. It's the classic image of emergency response.
But before any of that, there's a voice on the other end of the line.
The 911 operator.
Exactly. They're the real first responders. Think about it.
Absolutely. They're the ones taking those initial calls, hearing the panic, the fear.
The unimaginable distress. And they can't physically intervene, you know.
No, they're dealing with these intense situations from a distance, guided by protocols and training.
It's got to take a huge psychological toll.
Oh, undoubtedly. The constant exposure to trauma, the pressure of making split-second decisions.
And today, we're diving deep into some truly disturbing real experiences faced by 911 operators. We're talking about true accounts here, but we've changed some details to protect identities, obviously.
Right, of course. Anonymity is crucial in these sensitive cases.
But what you're about to hear, it's a chilling reminder that this kind of stuff, it's not just in movies. It could happen to anyone.
That's the unsettling reality. These are real people facing real dangers hidden behind those voices on the other end of the line.
Even you. Yeah. Let's start with the story of Jessica Matthews. She was a 911 operator in Seattle for 7 years. Imagine that routine day in and day out.
That constant influx of emergencies.
You have to develop a certain detachment, right?
Absolutely. A professional distance. It's a coping mechanism, essential for handling the emotional weight of the job.
You got to have that calm, steady voice.
911. What's your emergency?
Yeah, exactly. It's a lifeline for people in crisis.
But it can also, in a way, make the operator a target.
That's what we're going to see unfold here. So picture this. It's 3:1 a.m., the graveyard shift.
Usually quieter, right?
You'd think so, but not on this particular night. Jessica's already dealt with the typical calls, the drunken argument,
The usual late night stuff.
a possible overdose, even a small house fire. Then the phone rings again. 911. What's your emergency? Silence for a beat, and then this young woman, Emily Winters, her voice is barely a whisper. I think someone's in my house. Jill's right.
Immediate adrenaline rush, even just hearing you describe it.
You can practically hear the fear in her voice, the sounds of like glass breaking.
Footsteps upstairs, it's like something out of a horror movie.
Except this is real. Emily's managed to hide in her bedroom closet. She gives her address. 4322 Maple Street. Jessica stays calm, dispatches officers, tells Emily they'll be there in about 4 minutes.
4 minutes? That can feel like forever when you're in that kind of situation.
Absolutely. And every detail matters here. The time, the emergency, the address. It all becomes significant later on.
The 4-minute response time, too. That detail comes back in a chilling way.
Okay, so then the call takes this dark turn. You hear the bedroom door creaking open. Emily's voice, it catches, this choke sound. She whispers about the closet door. And then there's this soft, wet gurgling noise.
God, that's a horrifying detail. It paints such a vivid and disturbing picture.
And then the phone clatters to the floor. You think that's it, right? Line dead.
Connection lost.
But no. A male voice comes on the line. The intruder. And he says, she can't talk right now. But don't worry. I'll see you soon too, Jessica. How did he know her name? Full name. They're trained not to give that out. It sends chills down your spine.
Absolutely. The operator's anonymity, it's a fundamental safety measure.
So for him to know her name, it means something seriously wrong here.
This isn't just a random act. It points to a level of planning, of targeting, that's deeply disturbing.
The cops do get to Emily's place. But the full weight of this whole thing, it hits Jessica 3 days later. She makes this connection. 5 other women, all featured in disturbing audio files the authorities were investigating.
Audio files? What kind of audio files?
We'll get to that. But the point is, these women, they had all made previous 911 calls to Jessica. Unrelated calls, just normal emergencies.
So what, like a medical issue, car accident?
Exactly. A fender bender, a lost child. Everyday stuff that Jessica handled as part of her job.
And these calls, they're connected to those audio files.
Yeah, and that's when it dawns on everyone. Someone's been stalking Jessica for years, probably. Tracking her calls, figuring out who she's talking to.
Identifying the women she's helping.
And then something terrible happens to them. Her supervisor, he doesn't want to believe it at first. It sounds crazy.
It's hard to wrap your head around that level of premeditation.
But someone, Dawson I think, he says, inside access, someone within the 911 system itself,
That's when the investigation takes a whole new direction.
They start reviewing personnel records. 27 male employees who left in the last 3 years.
And Jessica, she's put under protection, right?
Yeah.
In a secure hotel room.
Can you imagine that? The feeling of being watched, even in a safe place.
The paranoia, it would be overwhelming.
So 7 days into this nightmare, Jessica gets another challenge. Not an audio file this time, but a phone number. The message says, Challenge 2. The listener becomes the speaker.
Ugh, that sounds ominous.
Jessica calls the number, and it's a woman, Tanya Morris. She's terrified. And right away, she starts accusing Jessica, saying she failed her during a previous intruder call a year ago.
Saying she didn't believe her, didn't send help fast enough.
Exactly. How do you think that must have felt for Jessica? Being blamed for something she couldn't control.
It's a classic manipulation tactic, preying on guilt, on any doubts she might have.
Tanya describes where she is, but it's vague. Dark, no windows, the sounds of dripping water.
And trains. She mentioned trains, right?
Yeah, in the distance. Then the caller gets on the line. He says he's giving Tanya 10 minutes to get Jessica to forgive her so she can leave, just like Rachel did. Whatever happened to Rachel, it doesn't sound good.
It's a threat veiled as a twisted game.
And if Tanya fails, he'll give her to his friends. This guy is playing with people's lives.
It's a level of cruelty that's hard to comprehend.
Jessica tries to get more details from Tanya. Smells, sounds, anything that could give away the location.
Anything specific.
Tanya mentions this old, musty smell. And tile walls.
Like a bathroom, maybe?
Yeah, something like that. The FBI is trying to trace the call, but they can't get a lock on it in time.
This guy, he's clearly tech savvy.
Then he demands this specific act of contrition from Jessica. He makes her say, I failed you when you needed me most, and I don't deserve your forgiveness. The manipulation is so obvious, but the pressure's immense.
He's trying to break her down.
Jessica says the words, and Tanya, you can hear the relief in her voice. She says she's at the old Wellington factory, in the basement locker room. 30 minutes, that's all the time they have.
That's barely any time.
SWAT gets dispatched. They find Tanya, alive, handcuffed to a pipe, but there's a note pinned to her shirt. 2 down, 4 to go. The game continues.
He's taunting them.
Jessica's at FBI headquarters now, looking at this huge evidence board. Emily's still missing. 4 other women are in danger. Detective Michaels says they've narrowed down the suspects to 3 former employees. They're under surveillance. But Jessica, she has this feeling, this gut feeling that something's off.
A feeling that they're missing something crucial.
Then comes the third challenge. Challenge 3. The face behind the voice. A simple email. Look in the mirror, Jessica. The answer has been there all along.
What's that supposed to mean?
Everyone's confused. Is it psychological? A clue hidden somewhere. Then Jessica's looking in the bathroom mirror, and it hits her. It's not about a physical location. It's about identity. Someone familiar.
Someone they know.
Someone close enough to be overlooked. The investigation shifts again. Now they have to consider current employees, people in their inner circle.
The danger's even closer now.
Jessica can't sleep that night. She goes back to her apartment, despite the risk. She has this hunch. She focuses on the bathroom mirror, remembers a note from the previous tenant.
About a loose tile.
Yeah, but the note, it wasn't on the front of the mirror. It was taped to the back.
So she checks behind the mirror.
And there it is, a flash drive taped to the back. She plugs it in, and the video starts playing. A man standing with his back to the camera. Then he turns around, and it's Mark Reynolds, her supervisor, her mentor.
No way.
He explains everything in his calm, chilling voice. He talks about listening for 30 years, just like Jessica. But it wasn't enough for him. He needed to create his masterpiece. He chose Jessica because of her empathy. Can you believe that?
Twisted logic.
Then the footage changes.
Yeah.
It's Emily, Karen White, Rachel, Tanya, all bound, pleading. Mark's voice says, 4 down, 2 to go. The final act is approaching, Jessica, and you have a choice to make. Continue our game and save the remaining 2, or expose me now and condemn them to death. He gives her this impossible choice.
God, that's horrific.
The video ends with this image. 2 women, hooded, bound, next to a timer counting down from 48 hours. The betrayal Jessica must feel is unimaginable, and the pressure she has to decide. Expose Mark and risk those women's lives, or play his game and potentially let him hurt more people. What would you do?
There's no easy answer.
Then Jessica gets a text. Time to decide, Jessica. The witness or the savior. 2 slow, steady heartbeats. And then silence. What do you think happens next?
I don't know. It's a terrifying thought.
This whole story, it shows that darkness can hide anywhere. even behind the voices we trust the most.
It makes you think about those 911 operators, the ones who answer our calls for help.
They deal with so much trauma, often in silence. And sometimes the danger comes from within. It's a chilling reality. So I'll leave you with this. What would you do in Jessica's situation? Which choice is the right one, knowing the consequences? It's a question that'll stay with you long after this deep dive.
Yeah, it definitely will.
It really makes you think.
It does.
All right, we'll see you next time.
All right, welcome to another deep dive.
Yeah.
We do these deep dives for you to give you the info you need to know from different sources. And I think today's is going to be really, really interesting.
I think so too, yeah.
So, what are we diving into today?
So today we're going to be diving into the world of 911 operators.
Oh, okay.
And we've got some really interesting accounts from real 911 operators.
Wow. Okay.
So we're going to hear about some of the craziest calls that they've had to deal with.
Oh, man. And I bet they have some crazy calls.
Oh, yeah.
The things that they must hear.
Yeah, it's like the thin line between everyday life and then like complete crisis and chaos.
And they're the ones on the front lines of that.
Exactly. And they have to deal with it like every single day.
Right.
So we're going to be hearing about some of those really harrowing calls. Those ones that really stick with you.
Yeah.
Even long after the call is over.
I'm really interested to hear about what kind of calls stick with them the most.
Yeah, me too.
Because you would think it would be like the, most violent or the most crazy, but it's probably something totally different.
Yeah, I think we're going to see
Yeah.
some stuff today that really like twists your perception.
Oh, okay, cool.
Yeah, yeah.
Well, let's jump into it then. Where do we start with this?
Well, I think it's a good idea to sort of start with thinking about like what the operators actually go through. Right?
Yeah.
Like, they're dealing with people at their most vulnerable, right?
Oh, absolutely.
They're hearing stories and experiencing situations that most of us will hopefully never have to encounter.
Right.
And they have to stay calm and collected throughout all of it.
Yeah, that's wild.
It's a really unique perspective that they have. And I think through these stories, you the listener, you'll get a glimpse into that world.
I think that's what's so interesting to me is just, like you said, they're the first line, They're
Yeah.
hearing it straight from the person who's going through it.
Absolutely.
Raw emotion,
Raw emotion, exactly.
Yeah.
Unfiltered.
Okay, so where do we start?
Why don't we start with the story of Sarah Reeves?
Okay.
This happened back in 2008 in Cleveland, Ohio.
Okay.
She was working the graveyard shift, November 15th.
Oh, graveyard shift.
Yeah.
Spooky already.
I know, right? And she gets this call,
Okay.
and it starts with this really quiet voice, like a whisper almost.
Oh, man.
A woman just saying, he's in the house.
Oh, chills, literal chills.
Right. Like right away, you know something's wrong.
Yeah, that's terrifying.
This is serious.
Okay, so what happens next?
So Sarah, being the pro that she is,
Yeah.
she jumps into action,
Yeah.
trying to get as much info from this woman as possible.
Right.
Staying calm, trying to keep the caller calm.
Yeah.
So the woman, she identifies herself as Mariah Wilson,
Okay.
and she says she's hiding in an upstairs bedroom closet.
Oh, wow.
There's an intruder who broke into the house through the kitchen door, and her 7-year-old daughter is asleep down the hall.
Oh, my gosh. Okay, so she's like trapped
She's trapped, absolutely.
with her daughter in the house.
And this guy's in the house.
Oh, man, that tension must be unbelievable.
Unbelievable. Yeah, and you can just hear it in Mariah's voice, like you said.
Right.
That raw emotion.
Right.
Just pouring through the phone.
Yeah, I bet Sarah's trying to like keep her calm, get all the information she can.
Yeah, exactly.
So what does Sarah do? Like, does she dispatch police right away?
Oh, absolutely.
Okay.
Like as soon as she gets the address, she's dispatching police.
Okay.
But at the same time, she's trying to get more information from Mariah. Like what's happening in the house.
Yeah.
Where's the intruder now? That kind of thing.
Yeah, that's going to be so hard, like, being in that situation.
Oh, absolutely. It's like, you're listening to this nightmare unfold.
Right.
You can't do anything but just talk and try to help from a distance.
Right, you're basically helpless.
Exactly.
So what happens next? The police are on their way. Like, what's going on in the house?
So Mariah's whispering the whole time.
Oh, guys.
And you can hear the panic in her voice like it's rising.
Yeah.
She can hear the intruder downstairs. Then she hears him moving upstairs.
Oh.
He's in the hallway, checking rooms.
Oh, this is so scary.
And then she whispers, I think he's going into my daughter's room. Oh, God, please no.
Oh, my God, I can't even imagine.
Like, you can't even imagine the terror.
What does Sarah do?
Sarah's trying to keep her calm. She's saying, like, help is on its way. Just stay quiet. But then,
Silence.
Oh, yeah.
Just dead silence.
So she's calling out to Mariah.
Yeah, she's calling out, Mariah? Mariah? Can you hear me?
Yeah.
But there's nothing.
Oh, God. And the police are on their way, but, like, who knows how long that's going to take?
Exactly. It's like every second feels like an eternity.
Yeah.
Then Sarah hears these sounds through the phone,
Okay.
like a gasp, a muffled thud, like something hit the floor, and then a little girl's voice in the background.
Oh.
She just says, Mommy.
Oh.
And then the line goes dead.
So, like, Sarah's freaking out right now, right? Yeah, she's hitting redial over and over.
But nothing.
Nothing.
Okay, so the cops get there. What do they find?
This is where it gets weird.
Okay.
They get to the house, and there's no sign of forced entry.
What?
No broken glass at the kitchen door like Mariah had said.
Oh, okay, so maybe she got it wrong?
Maybe, but it gets even stranger.
Okay.
The house is completely silent.
Like no intruder?
No intruder, and they find the homeowner,
Okay.
Mr. Wilson.
Okay.
He lives there alone, says he doesn't know anyone named Mariah, and has no children.
What? Okay, this is getting really creepy.
Yeah, and so the police are confused, right?
Yeah.
They're looking around trying to figure out what happened.
Right.
And Mr. Wilson mentions that, like, 15 years ago,
Okay.
a family named Wilson did live there,
Okay.
but they moved out after a home invasion.
What?
Yeah, a really bad one,
Oh no.
where the mother and daughter were killed.
Oh my God, are you serious?
Yeah, it was a cold case, never solved.
Okay.
The mother's name, Mariah Wilson.
Are you kidding me?
No, and get this.
Yeah.
The call came in at 3:17 a.m.,
Okay.
which is reportedly the exact time Mariah Wilson was killed 15 years ago, to the day.
This is too freaky.
Right, it's like something out of a horror movie.
No, seriously, that's so creepy.
And Sarah, she was so shaken by this.
Yeah.
She actually requested a transfer to detective work,
Wow.
and she still keeps that case file.
Really? Like she can't let it go.
She can't let it go, and she says she truly believes that Mariah is still trapped there, trying to save her daughter, waiting for help.
Oh my
It
God.
gives me chills just thinking about it.
Me too. Yeah, and it makes you think like how many calls do they get like that?
Right. The ones that just stick with you.
Yeah, the unexplained ones.
Exactly. The ones that make you question everything.
Well, speaking of questioning everything, we have another story, right?
Yeah, this was from James Kelly.
Okay.
He's a retired 911 dispatcher from upstate New York.
Okay.
Spent 20 years taking those emergency calls.
Wow, that's a long time.
It is. And he said something that really stuck with me.
What's that?
He said the hardest calls aren't always the ones that are like, obviously tragic,
Okay, yeah.
but the ones that have a twist,
A twist? Like, what do you mean?
like the ones that leave you scratching your head wondering what really happened.
Oh, I get it. Like the unexplained ones.
Exactly. Like his story.
Okay, what happened?
It was a foggy night back in October 2001 on the Taconic Parkway North.
Okay, spooky, foggy night.
I know, right? Setting the scene.
Yeah.
So he gets this call from a guy who's clearly shaken up,
Okay.
says, I think I hit someone.
Oh, man.
So James, he does his thing trying to get info.
Right.
The guy says his name is David Renner,
Okay.
and he says he was driving along, and there was this person standing in the middle of the road,
God.
a woman in a white dress.
Okay.
He swears he felt the impact,
Oh, wow.
but when he stopped to check, he couldn't find her anywhere.
What? Okay, but like you hit someone, they're there.
Right. You'd think so? And David's adamant he was only going like 30 miles per hour because of the fog,
Okay.
and that the impact was right in front of his car. So the police go out there to investigate, right?
What do they find?
Nothing.
What do you mean nothing?
Like no victim, no blood, no signs of a body being dragged.
So what did they hit?
That's what's so strange.
Okay.
The trooper's report says there was some minor damage to the front bumper of David's car,
Okay.
but they basically chalk it up to a possible animal strike.
An animal.
Yeah, and psychological shock from driving in the fog.
But he felt the impact, right?
Yeah, he insisted he did, and honestly, James, even listening to the call, he felt like David was being sincere.
Okay.
But that's not even the end of it.
There's more.
Oh yeah, 3 nights later,
Okay.
James gets another call. Almost the exact same location on the Taconic,
Oh, come on.
and it's a woman this time.
Okay.
Hysterical, crying, saying, I just hit someone.
Another one.
Another one, same spot, foggy conditions.
What are the odds?
It's crazy, right? So this woman, her name is Elizabeth Downey.
Okay.
She's a nurse from Albany,
Okay.
and she tells James almost the same story as David.
Were you serious?
Dead serious. She saw a woman in the road, came out of nowhere, hit her head on.
Okay.
But when she stopped, the woman was gone.
This is insane.
I know, right? And the description she gives,
Yeah.
same as David, young, mid-20s, long black hair, white dress, standing in the middle of the lane, staring.
Okay, so it's got to be the same person, right?
It's got to be, right?
Yeah.
But her car,
Yeah.
it had a shattered right headlight.
Okay, so there's damage.
Yeah, but again, no blood, no human impact marks on the car.
Okay, so what is going on here? This is crazy.
It's wild, right? But it gets even crazier.
There's more.
Over the next 3 years, James took 7 more calls.
7.
7 more, all from that same stretch of the Taconic.
All saying they hit a woman in a white dress.
Pretty much, yeah. All similar stories.
Okay, so James has got to be like, what is happening here?
He's losing his mind, right?
Yeah.
So he starts doing some digging on his own time.
Okay.
And he comes across this story about a woman named Sophia Kelcher.
Okay.
Back in 1973, Sophia was driving on the Taconic during a rainstorm when her car broke down.
Okay.
She was trying to flag down help when she was hit and killed by a hit-and-run driver.
Oh, that's awful.
It is, and get this, the driver never stopped.
Seriously?
Yeah, they just kept going.
Oh, that's horrible.
Her body was found the next morning, and she was wearing a white sundress.
A white sundress.
Yeah, her favorite, her family said.
Okay, this is all way too much of a coincidence.
Way too much.
Yeah.
And here's another thing. Exit 27 on the Taconic.
Yeah.
It now stands where Sophia was killed.
So all those accidents were happening right where she died.
Pretty much, yeah. And James found out that between Sophia's death and David Renner's call,
Yeah.
there were 23 reported incidents of drivers hitting something on that stretch of road.
23.
23. Can you believe that?
That's insane. So, like, what? Do you think they were all hitting Sophia's ghost?
I don't know. I mean, it's hard to say, right?
Yeah.
But it's definitely creepy.
No, for sure. Super creepy.
And most of those incidents happened in low visibility conditions, fog, rain, you know.
Just like Sophia's accident.
Exactly. That's all a bit too much, isn't it?
Yeah. I can see why James avoids that road.
Oh, yeah. He hasn't driven on the Taconic since he retired in 2011.
I don't blame him.
But he did tell me of one last call he took that was different.
Okay, how so?
A young woman called, hysterical, saying she had hit someone in a white dress.
Okay, same story.
Yeah, but then she said she saw the woman in her rear view mirror,
What?
standing there unharmed, pointing at something behind her.
Are you serious?
That's what she said. And before James could even ask what the woman was pointing at,
Yeah.
the caller screamed and the line went dead.
Oh, God, no.
Yeah, turned out another car had rear-ended her at high speed, killed her instantly.
Oh, my God.
And when state troopers got there, they found skid marks near the caller's car that hadn't been there minutes before.
Okay.
And those skid marks, they matched the pattern from the night Sophia Kelcher died.
No way. Are you serious? That is so messed up.
It is. And James, he always thinks back to that. He says, it's like they only ever cared about the drivers, you know?
Yeah.
Never sent someone to check on the ghost.
Right.
He wonders if that's why she's still out there trying to be seen.
Well, that's deep.
I know, right?
That makes you think.
It really does. Like, what do we miss when we only focus on what's right in front of us?
Right. Like maybe there's more to things than we realize.
Yeah, maybe.
Okay. Well, we have another story, right? And this one's about Maria.
Yeah, Maria Vasquez.
Okay. And she was a 911 operator.
In Phoenix, Arizona.
Okay.
For 12 years.
Okay. And what happened with her?
Well, she had her own ways of dealing with the stress of the job, you know?
Right. I bet you have to.
But this one call, it just shattered everything for her.
Oh, man.
It was July 2013 during this crazy heat wave.
Oh, wow. Yeah. Phoenix in July.
Brutal, right.
Yeah.
And all the emergency services were stretched thin.
I bet everyone's calling.
Everyone's calling 911.
Right.
And Marie gets this call,
Okay.
and it's this faint, labored breathing.
Okay.
A woman's voice, just barely able to get the words out.
What does she say?
She says, I can't breathe.
Oh, man.
And Ree's trying to get information, you know, address, name, all that.
Right.
The woman says her name is Eleanor Parker.
Okay.
She's at 412 Saguaro Lane, apartment 3C, and she's alone.
Okay.
But what's weird is how she's describing her condition.
Okay.
She says she can't catch her breath.
Okay. So she's having trouble breathing.
Yeah, but she says she doesn't have chest pain or any prior medical conditions.
Okay.
But then she says the air feels wrong.
Wrong? Like how?
She says it feels heavy, like something's in it.
It's weird.
Right. Like it's a really strange thing to say.
Yeah, definitely.
And then she goes on to say that something's in the room with her.
Oh, come on.
Yeah, it gets creepy.
This is too much Like, what do you even say to that?
Right. It's like, what do you do as an operator?
Right, right.
So Maria's trying to stay calm,
Yeah.
trying to reassure Eleanor that help is on the way.
Yeah, yeah.
But it's taking a while because, remember, it's this huge heat wave.
Right, right.
Paramedics are slammed.
Yeah, okay, so what happens with Eleanor?
So she's getting more and more scared.
Oh, no.
She starts talking about this dark shadow in the corner of the room.
In shadow?
Yeah, and she says it's watching her and taking all the air.
Oh, God. This is getting freaky.
Right, like super freaky.
But what does she do?
She's getting more and more frantic, says she can't move,
Oh, no.
like the shadow won't let her. What? And then her last words are, it's getting bigger, it's coming closer, it's standing over me now.
Oh, God, that is terrifying.
And then silence.
Oh.
Just silence.
What did the paramedics find?
When they finally get there, they find Eleanor dead on the couch.
Oh, my God.
No pulse, cause of death. Acute respiratory failure of unknown origin.
But, like, nothing else.
No underlying conditions, no trauma, no drugs. They even tested the air in the apartment. Nothing. Completely normal.
That's crazy. So, like, what? She just died.
They have no explanation.
Oh, wow.
It's like she just stopped breathing for no reason.
That's so unsettling.
I know, right? But then, 3 weeks later,
3 weeks?
Maria gets another call
No.
from the same apartment, apartment 3C.
Are you serious?
Dead serious. This time it's a guy.
Okay.
His name is Daniel Williams.
Okay. Daniel Williams.
He's just moved into the apartment.
So, like, new tenant?
Brand new tenant.
Oh, my God.
And he says the same thing. I can't breathe. Something's wrong with the air.
No way. This is too freaky.
I know, right? But then he says something even creepier.
What's that?
He says he feels like someone's there with him even though he's alone.
Oh, God.
And then he asks Maria, do you see it?
See what?
He says there's something in the corner, dark, like a shadow, but it's moving, getting bigger. It's watching me.
This is literally a nightmare.
I know. And then, just like Eleanor, he says, I can't move. It doesn't want me to. It's coming closer.
Oh, God, no. And then what?
Silence.
So, like, what happened?
Paramedics get there, find Daniel dead on the floor, same cause of death, no explanation.
2 people dead in the same apartment, same cause of death, both talking about a shadow.
It's insane.
Yeah.
What was going on in that apartment?
Who knows? But the police investigated, found nothing suspicious.
Really?
They cleared the apartment.
Okay, but like 2 people are dead.
Maria tried to warn the property management. They dismissed her.
Really?
Yeah, they thought she was crazy.
Oh, come on. That's so irresponsible.
I know, right? But then 6 weeks later, another call came in from apartment 3C.
Another one.
Maria refused to take it. She quit her job that night.
She quit.
She couldn't handle it anymore. She said some places are just wrong. Like, reality itself is damaged there.
That's a chilling thought.
It is, right? And she
Yeah.
still has nightmares about those calls.
I can imagine. She wonders how you're supposed to help someone when the emergency is something you can't even see or understand.
Yeah, that's a tough one.
And her biggest fear,
What's that?
hearing breathing on the other end of a call that never came through.
Oh my God, that is terrifying.
I know, right? Just thinking about it gives me chills.
Yeah, me too. That's super creepy.
It really makes you think about the things these operators have to deal with.
It does, like the mental toll it must take on them.
Absolutely.
Okay, well, we have one more story to go, right?
You do, yeah.
And this one's about Thomas.
Nicholas Brooks, yeah.
Okay, so he was a 911 operator.
20-year veteran of the Chicago Emergency Communication Center.
Wow, 20 years. He must have heard it all.
Oh, you bet he did.
So what's his story?
Well, Thomas had this knack for recognizing different types of calls, you know?
Like, he could tell what was going on just from the tone of voice?
Pretty much, yeah. It comes with experience, you know?
Yeah, I bet.
But this one call, it was 3:45 a.m. in March 2017. It was different. A woman called, calm as can be, reporting a murder at 821 Lakeshore Drive.
Okay, and she was calm.
Totally calm, like she was ordering takeout.
That's strange, right? You'd think she'd be freaking out.
You would, but she was just matter of fact, you know?
Okay, so what did she say?
She said, I need to report a murder.
Oh, wow, just like that?
Just like that. Said the victim was killed about 20 minutes ago, multiple stab wounds.
Oh my God.
Said the knife was in the kitchen sink. She was safe in the living room. The victim was in the bedroom, and the perpetrator was still there.
Wait, what? The perpetrator was still there?
Yeah, that's what she said.
Oh, that's crazy. So what did Thomas do?
He's thinking, This is bizarre, right?
Yeah.
But he's got to stay professional.
Right, of course.
So he starts asking questions, trying to get more info, and the whole time,
Yeah.
she's just completely calm.
No emotion at all.
None. It's eerie.
So what happens next?
She gives her name as Rebecca Winters,
Rebecca Winters. Okay.
and then she drops a bomb.
What do you mean?
She says, I killed her about 20 minutes ago.
Whoa, hold on. She just confessed.
Just like that, calm as can be.
So what was her reason? Why did she kill her?
She said it was a mercy killing.
A mercy killing.
Yeah, she said the victim was her sister, Catherine Winters,
Okay.
and that Catherine had terminal cancer and was in a lot of pain.
Oh, wow. So she did it to end her suffering.
That's what she claimed.
Okay, but like, is that even legal?
Well, she acknowledged that it was still murder,
Right, of course.
but she said she promised Catherine that she would confess and face the consequences.
Okay.
So what
The
happened?
cops get there, right?
Oh yeah, they get there, and Rebecca's completely compliant,
Okay.
maintains her confession.
Okay, so like open and shut case, right?
You'd think so, but then during the trial,
Yeah.
they introduced this crucial piece of evidence,
What's that?
Catherine's journal.
Oh, wow. Like her personal diary.
Exactly, and it paints a completely different picture.
What do you mean?
Catherine's final entry talks about her fear of Rebecca.
Fear.
Yeah, she believed Rebecca was planning to kill her.
Really?
And she even wrote about finding a hidden knife in the apartment.
Oh, wow.
She also talked about Rebecca's jealousy and resentment.
Jealousy. Of what?
It's unclear, but Catherine wrote about overhearing Rebecca talking about how it would all be over soon and she'd be finally free.
Oh, God.
And Catherine wrote about her terror, her fear that no one would hear her cries for help.
That's awful.
And the worst part,
What?
she explicitly stated that Rebecca's motive was hatred, not mercy.
Oh, my God.
It completely contradicted Rebecca's confession.
Wow. So she lied to the police and to 911.
It seems so. And when they read Catherine's journal entry in court,
Yeah.
Rebecca completely broke down.
Oh, wow.
And the medical examiner's report also contradicted Rebecca's story.
Really? How so?
They found high levels of sedatives in Catherine's system
Oh, wow.
and defensive wounds on her body, indicating she fought for her life.
So it was not a mercy killing at all.
Not even close. It was cold-blooded murder.
Wow. So what happened to Rebecca?
She was convicted of first-degree murder and sentenced to life in prison.
Wow. That's a crazy story.
It is, right? And Thomas, he always thinks about that call.
Yeah.
He says he was so struck by the certainty in Rebecca's voice when she talked about the mercy killing.
Like she believed it.
It's almost like she believed her own lie.
Wow. That's disturbing.
It is.
Yeah.
And it made him question everything.
Like what?
Like how well we can really know anyone, even those closest to us.
Yeah, I get it.
And there's this one final detail that's really chilling.
Okay.
The police found a digital voice recorder on Catherine's bedside table.
Okay.
The battery was dead, but the memory was full.
So they were able to get the recordings off of it.
Yeah, and the audio file, it contained Catherine's desperate pleas for her life.
Oh my God, no.
She was begging Rebecca to stop,
Oh God.
refuting Rebecca's claims of consent and mercy.
Oh, that's heartbreaking.
And her last words, they were, please, Becca, this isn't what I want. I don't want to die like this. Please don't do this. Please, someone help me.
That's awful. Like her own sister did that to her.
It's a tragedy, and Thomas often thinks about that recording.
Yeah.
He says it was like Catherine's 911 call.
But no one was there to answer it.
Exactly, and it makes you wonder how many other unheard cries for help are out there.
Welcome to the Deep Dive. You know, we often talk about mysteries and the unexplained, but today we're diving into some truly extraordinary stories. We're talking about 911 calls.
Yeah, 911 calls, but not your typical fender bender or noise complaint.
Right. These are the calls that 911 operators themselves have shared calls that left them shaken and searching for answers. Calls that, frankly, went beyond the realm of the explainable. The kind of calls that make you wonder what's really out there.
You know what always gets me about these accounts? It's the unique perspective they offer, right? You've got these 911 operators, they're like first responders, but remote. They're right there in these intense, often terrifying situations.
Yeah, they're hearing the raw emotion, the fear, the chaos.
Exactly. But they aren't physically present. So it's like their testimonies have this extra layer of, I don't know, weight to them. It's like hearing echoes of events that just defy easy explanation.
And that's exactly what we're exploring today. We're pulling back the curtain on these calls, the ones that stick with you long after they're over.
Right. The calls that make you question what's possible, the ones that haunt you. And the source for our deep dive today is a collection of first-hand accounts from operators themselves. It's called, appropriately enough, Echoes of Dispatch.
Catchy title.
Yeah, right. And these aren't just spooky stories for entertainment.
No, we're going deeper than that.
We want to understand the impact these calls had on the people who answered them, the people who lived these experiences. And maybe, just maybe, we can try to grapple with the questions they raise about our understanding of reality. Does it change how we view the world?
It certainly makes you think. All right, let's start with a truly unsettling account. It's called Room 24.
Ooh, that title already has me hooked.
I know, right? Okay, so this one involves Amanda Reyes. She was a dispatcher in rural Montana, had about 6 years of experience under her belt at the time. Big sky country.
Yeah, I can imagine the sense of isolation out there must add to the spookiness of it all.
Yeah, for sure. So it was December 18th, 2015, 2:34 a.m. when Amanda got this call. A woman was whispering, pleading for help from room 24 of this motel called the Mountain View Motel. Identified herself as Ellen and said someone was coming to kill her.
Right off the bat, that's got to be a dispatcher's worst nightmare. That sense of urgency, the threat of immediate danger.
Yeah. Unfortunately, it's not that unusual. They get calls like that all the time, domestic disputes and whatnot.
True. But I bet this one was different.
Oh, yeah, it took a very dark turn.
I was going to say.
Ellen's voice, it got really frantic. She kept saying, "He's going to kill me," room 24, over and over. She said he was outside watching and would be back at 3. Then she said she'd locked herself in the bathroom, and that's when you could hear it, the door being kicked in.
God, that's terrifying. To be listening to that, powerless on the other end of the line.
And then the sounds no dispatcher ever wants to hear. Screams, pleas for mercy, these awful, dull thuds. And then a gurgling cry. And then silence.
Chilling. Just chilling. The silence is almost worse than the sounds in a way, isn't it?
Absolutely. And then, after this long silence, a man's voice comes on the line, real close to the phone. He says, "She shouldn't have run. Some debts can only be paid one way." And then the line went dead.
That line, "Some debts can only be paid one way," it just sends shivers down your spine.
Right. I mean, it's so calculated, cold-blooded. Amanda, of course, dispatched deputies immediately. They got to the Mountain View Motel just 17 minutes later.
17 minutes. That's pretty fast.
Yeah. But here's the thing. Get this. They found no signs of a struggle, no blood, no evidence that anyone had even been in room 24 for days. The motel manager insisted that the room had been vacant since the previous weekend.
So you've got this horrifying call, you've got the log of it,
Yeah.
but no physical evidence to support it. What do you make of that?
Exactly. It's like it never happened. But then it gets even weirder. Okay. So they ran the name Ellen Frost through the system. Turns out a woman with that exact name was murdered in room 24 of the Mountain View Motel. But get this, it was 42 years prior, December 18th, 1973, around 2:45 a.m. Her estranged husband found her, broke down the bathroom door, and stabbed her.
42 years. Same date, same room. That can't just be a coincidence, can it?
I know, right? It's just too eerie. And get this. Deputy Sheriff Mark Callahan, one of the first on the scene that night in 2015, he remembered the call clearly, and the official log was there too. But here's the kicker. They checked the motel phone records. Nothing. No record of any call placed from room 24 that night. Not from the room phone, not from a cell phone. It's like the call just materialized out of thin air.
That's not just strange, it's impossible. A call has to come from somewhere.
Right. Amanda, she was obviously pretty disturbed by all of this. She did some digging, found old newspaper articles about the 1973 murder.
The internet really is a rabbit hole sometimes.
No kidding. Anyway, one of the articles mentioned that the maid who found Ellen's body said the room phone was off the hook. And here's the thing. 911 as we know it, it didn't even exist in 1973.
So if the phone was off the hook, she could have called 911.
Right.
It just doesn't add up.
Exactly. It's like, did Ellen try to call for help for 42 years? And the really scary part, Amanda says she still hears that man's voice in her dreams. She shouldn't have run, he said.
Man, that's heavy. These dispatchers, they deal with so much. It's no wonder these calls stick with them.
Absolutely. Okay, ready for another one?
You be.
All right. This one is called The Children in the Woods, and it's about Carson Wheeler, a retired 911 dispatcher in rural Oregon. This one goes back to his first year on the job. It was October 12th, 1991, during his overnight shift.
Oh, man. Your first year on a job like that, you're still finding your feet. Then something like this comes along.
Yeah, talk about trial by fire. So the call came in. It was a young child, sounded about 9. He said his name was Jamie Simmons, and he was lost in the woods with his sisters, 7-year-old Emma and 5-year-old Michael.
Lost child calls, those are always heartbreakers.
Yeah, absolutely. But this one was different.
How so?
Okay, so Jamie, he's describing their surroundings. He says, just trees, lots of trees, it's getting dark, cold. They were hiking with their parents on Eagle Creek near this waterfall, took a shortcut, and now they're lost. No water, no food. And little Michael, he's scared. But here's the thing, he mentions hearing animals, and then he says other things.
Other things, uh-oh. That's not what you want to hear.
Nope, not at all. Carson, of course, immediately dispatches search and rescue
Right.
protocol. But the details Jamie's giving, they just get weirder. He says they didn't see the sun fully set. They're wearing sweaters, but Michael's shivering. And he keeps talking about these other things, watching them from the trees. Says they don't look right.
So it's not just being lost. It's this feeling of being stalked or watched by something unknown.
Exactly. And here's another thing that struck Carson as odd, even at the time. This was 1991. And Jamie said he was calling on his mom's cell phone.
A cell phone in 91. That's unusual, especially for a kid out hiking.
And the Eagle Creek area, it's known for having really bad cell reception even today. Back then, cell phones were still pretty rare.
Yeah, those big brick phones. Not exactly standard hiking equipment.
No kidding. Anyway, the call goes on, almost 40 minutes. It's a long time for a kid to be on the line in that situation. And Jamie starts getting more and more panicked.
I can imagine, especially with those other things lurking about.
Yeah, he starts saying things like, they're coming closer. And he keeps repeating how these people in the trees don't look right. Says their faces are wrong and that they're calling out the kids' names. But his mom told them never to go with strangers, even if they know their names.
Man, that's a nightmare scenario right there. I mean, something that knows your name but doesn't look right.
Creepy, right. And then the call just ends. Jamie's urging his siblings to stay behind him. Then you hear some frightened cries, rustling sounds. And Jamie's last words were, please help us, they're taking. And then the line went dead.
So what happened next? Did they find the kids?
Well, they launched a massive search. Over 200 volunteers, 72 hours. They combed that entire area. But they found nothing. No sign of the kids.
Nothing.
Nothing. And here's where it gets even more confusing. No missing children reports matching those names. No family named Simmons registered for the trail that day. In the end, they logged the call as a possible prank. But Carson, he knew what he heard. He swore it was real.
So the dead end, no kids, no evidence, just a spooky call.
Right. Well, not quite. This is where it takes a really bizarre turn.
Oh boy.
So fast forward 22 years to 2013. A search and rescue team is doing a training exercise near Eagle Creek in this really remote ravine. And they stumble across something. Remnants of children's clothing, 3 decayed backpacks, and 3 sets of human remains. The estimated ages, 9, 7, and 5.
Hold on. You're telling me they found the remains of 3 children 22 years later.
That's right.
But what about the call? It doesn't make sense.
I know. It's crazy, right?
So what did they think happened? I mean, were these the Simmons kids?
Well, they did forensic analysis on the remains, and it showed that they were decades old.
Decades old, so not from 1991.
Nope. And here's where it gets even weirder, okay?
Okay.
Clutched in the skeleton of the oldest child was a transistor radio. Like, those old school radios from the 1970s?
It's a transistor radio. That doesn't fit with anything.
I know, right? So they start digging through missing persons databases, and guess what they find? A case from August 1974. 3 kids, James, Emily, and Matthew Simpson, vanished while hiking with their parents on the Eagle Creek Trail. They were never found.
The Simpson kids. So the remains weren't the Simmons kids from the call?
Nope. Different family, different names, different year.
But the ages.
Yeah.
They match up. And the transistor radio. This is crazy.
Right. So DNA testing confirms it. The remains are the Simpson children. Case officially closed. Death by exposure and injuries from a fall. But Carson, he can't shake that 1991 call. He knows what he heard. Those were the voices of children who, according to everything, had been dead for 17 years.
It's going to mess with your head, right? Knowing that what you experience just doesn't line up with reality.
I can't even imagine. And it gets worse. They found a diary with the backpacks. Mostly decayed, but there's one page that's legible. It's in a child's handwriting, probably James Simpson's, and it reads, "They're following us. The people who come out from between the trees at sunset. Mom and Dad said they're not real, but they know our names and their faces are wrong. If we get lost, don't trust them."
The people in the trees with the wrong faces.
Yeah.
It's the same thing Jamie described in 1991.
Exactly. It's like whatever those kids encountered, it didn't go away. It's almost as if it found a way to reach out through Carson all those years later.
That is so messed up. It's like time doesn't even matter anymore.
It really makes you think, doesn't it? All right. Ready for another one?
Yeah, let's hear it. I'm bracing myself.
Okay, this one is called The House on Pine Street. and it's about Diane Phillips. She was a 911 dispatcher in Cincinnati, but she specialized in domestic violence calls. Really good at picking up on coded language and stuff.
Oh, wow. Coded language in 911 calls. I never even thought about that.
Yeah, it happens more often than you'd think. So April 3rd, 2008, Diane gets a call from a woman ordering a pizza.
A pizza? That's an emergency.
No, of course not. But this was a coded call. The woman, she was trying to subtly alert Diane to a dangerous situation without tipping off whoever was threatening her.
That's brilliant, but terrifying.
It is. So she orders a large pepperoni pizza for delivery to 427 Pine Street, the house with the blue door, she specifies. Her tone, super casual, almost too casual.
Try and sound normal. I get it. But Diane, she's trained for this, right?
Oh yeah, she picks up on it right away. Extra cheese. That meant, yes, threatened. Half pepperoni, half mushroom. Not the husband, mentioning the delivery time. Immediate danger.
Wow. They've got a whole system for this.
Yeah, and it gets more detailed. She wants the delivery expedited because her son is hungry, code for child present. No garlic bread, but long, pointed breadsticks. That meant weapon, knife. And then she throws in things like, 3 of us, our guest doesn't like to wait, and not happy with son.
Giving out all this info without ever directly saying it.
Exactly. It's heartbreaking, really. But then, right as she's wrapping up the order, the line cuts out. Her last words, "He's getting impatient. Thank you."
Uh-oh. That's not good.
Nope. Diane dispatches officers immediately. They arrive at 427 Pine Street in 3 minutes, sirens blaring. But when they get there, the house is completely empty.
Empty? What do you mean empty?
No furniture, no signs of anyone living there, covered in dust and cobwebs like it had been vacant for years.
There's a pizza order. The woman on the phone.
I know. It doesn't make sense. They search the whole house. The only thing they find is an old rotary phone, disconnected, sitting right in the middle of the kitchen floor.
A rotary phone. Like from the old days.
Yeah. And in 2008, that was already pretty unusual.
Definitely. So was it a hoax? Some kids messing around?
They looked into that. Property records showed that the house had been vacant for almost 2 years, ever since the previous owner died. And the current owner, he had no idea anyone was even using the property.
So no one was supposed to be there. But the call?
I know. Here's the crazy part. They checked the 911 system. The call did originate from a landline registered to 427 Pine Street. But the phone company confirmed that the line had been disconnected 23 months prior.
A call from a disconnected phone? That shouldn't even be possible.
I know. Diane, she was shaken, obviously. She reviewed everything herself, listened to the recording again. No way it was a prank. It was real.
This just keeps getting stranger and stranger.
Yeah, right? So a detective starts looking into the history of the house, and he uncovers this old newspaper article from 1982. There'd been a horrific incident at that very address. A woman and her 10-year-old son were stabbed to death by an intruder. The woman, she managed to call the police, but they got there too late.
So a double murder at the same address years earlier.
Yeah. And get this, the police report from 1982, it stated that the woman's body was found in the kitchen, clutching the phone. Her last words were, "He's getting impatient, please hurry."
It's the same thing the woman on the pizza call said. The exact same words.
I know, right? It's just too much to be a coincidence. Diane, she was devastated. I mean, was this some kind of echo? Was that woman from 1982 still trying to get help? Was it a warning?
A warning from beyond the grave. That's some seriously scary stuff.
And here's the kicker, okay? The original 911 call from 1982, the one recorded on those old magnetic tapes, it was logged as evidence in the murder case. But guess what? It went missing from the evidence room in April 2008. The exact same day Diane got that pizza call.
Are you kidding me? The tape disappears on the same day.
Nope. It's like the past was bleeding into the present. That house on Pine Street, it held on to something dark.
Definitely not ordering pizza from there anytime soon.
Yeah, good call. Okay, one more account. It's a bit of a different vibe, but just mind-boggling.
Bring it on.
This one's called The Man on the Bridge. Ray Jackson was a 911 operator in San Francisco for 15 years. He dealt with it all. But this call, it was unlike anything he'd ever encountered.
What happened?
It was a foggy night in November 2011. Ray gets a call from a man, calm, resigned voice. He says his name is David Chen and that he's going to jump off the Golden Gate Bridge.
Oh, man.
Those calls. I know. David, he gives his location, halfway across the bridge, east side, says he's already over the railing.
So, not a threat. It's happening.
Yeah. Ray, he immediately dispatches Bridge Patrol and crisis negotiators. But he keeps talking to David, trying to build some kind of rapport.
Trying to keep him on the line. Buy some time.
Exactly, David. He explains that his wife, Lynn, she died 3 months earlier from cancer. They were married for 37 years, met in college when they were 22. He says she was the only woman he ever loved.
Oh, man. It's heartbreaking.
He promised her he'd try to keep going, but he just can't. He says there's nothing left for him now that she's gone.
The depth of that despair. It's almost palpable, even through the phone lines.
And Ray, he's just listening, trying to find something, anything to say to help. David talks about Lynn. She was a pediatrician, an immigrant from China, loved by all her little patients. They were going to name the children's wing at her hospital after her the following week. They didn't have any kids of their own.
So it's like he's lost everything. His life partner, his purpose.
Yeah. And he mentions that he's a retired structural engineer. He even worked on bridges, including some retrofitting on the Golden Gate itself.
Wow. The bridge he's about to jump from. That's heavy.
I know. It's like this horrible, tragic irony. And to make matters worse, there's an accident on the bridge approach, so the crisis team is delayed.
Every second must have felt like an eternity.
Oh, I bet. David says the reason he even called 911, he didn't want to be alone at the end. And he wanted someone to be able to tell Lynn's elderly parents in Seattle what happened. They didn't have anyone else.
So even in his despair, he's still thinking of others.
Yeah. He tells Ray about this promise he and Lynn made 40 years ago, right there on the Golden Gate Bridge when they were just kids in college. They promised that neither of them would want to live if the other one died.
A Romeo and Juliet kind of promise. Except, way more tragic.
Yeah. And he talks about their honeymoon. They watched the sunrise together on the foggy bridge, made a promise to come back for their 50th anniversary. It would have been 13 years away.
A future he won't get to see.
Right. And just then Ray hears the bridge patrol arriving in the background. But then David says something that just stops Ray cold. He says, it doesn't matter. I've already jumped.
Wait, what? He already jumped?
Yeah. David says he called 911 before he climbed over the railing, that he jumped about 5 minutes ago.
But he's been talking to Ray this whole time.
Exactly. The call log shows it lasted 47 minutes, but Ray says it only felt like 7 or 8 minutes to him.
Time distortion. It happens a lot in these high-stress situations.
Right. And then David's last words were, I'm already gone, Ray. I just couldn't leave without saying goodbye to someone, without making sure Lynn's parents would know. Thank you for listening. And the line went dead.
Wow. Wow. So, did they ever find his body?
The bridge patrol, they found his cell phone on the bridge, right where David said he'd be, but no sign of him. And a driver reported seeing someone fall about 40 minutes earlier, but it was too foggy to be sure. They searched the water, but never found a body.
So he vanished.
Yeah.
Just like that.
But hold on, there's more. They looked into David Chen's background. And get this, David Chen had jumped from the Golden Gate Bridge 3 years earlier in 2008. His body was recovered. His wife, Lin Ling Chen, she was a pediatrician. She died of cancer, but here's the thing. She died 3 months after David's suicide.
Hold on. So in 2008, the wife was still alive when he jumped. But in the 2011 call, he said she'd already died.
Exactly. It's like 2 different timelines, 2 different realities.
This is messing with my head.
Mine too. And you know what? The David Chen who jumped in 2008, he left a note for Lynn's parents. But there was no 911 call.
So 2 different timelines, 2 different versions of the same story.
Yeah. The department psychologist, he tried to explain it away. I said maybe it was a prank call or that Ray had some kind of dissociative episode.
But the call log, the phone.
Exactly. The phone they found on the bridge, it was David Chen's phone from 2008. It was part of his recovered belongings.
So it was really him calling from beyond the grave.
It seems that way. And Ray never told anyone this before, but a year after that call, he went to the dedication ceremony for the Lin Ling Chen Memorial Children's Wing at the hospital. And during this video tribute to Lynn's life, they showed a picture, a wedding photo. And Ray, he recognized the man in the photo. It was David Chen, the David Chen from the call.
The same man who jumped 3 years earlier.
The one and only. And Ray said he recognized his voice instantly, that same calm, resigned voice.
So he saw the face of the man he spoke to on that impossible call.
Yeah. It's like all the pieces fit, but they just don't make sense. Ray's theory. He thinks that David's regret, his grief over leaving Lynn to face cancer alone, it was so powerful that it somehow, reached across time.
Like a ripple effect through reality.
Yeah, something like that. Maybe he reached a different timeline, a reality where he could fulfill that promise they made, where he wouldn't have to live without her, where he could say a proper goodbye.
Wow. That's a lot to process.
Right. I mean, it makes you wonder, what if we're not just bound by linear time? What if our emotions, our deepest regrets, can somehow transcend the boundaries of reality?
I'm going to bet all those other calls,
Yeah.
the ones we never hear about.
It makes you think, right? What's really possible?
I don't know, but I'm definitely going to be thinking about these stories for a long time.
Me too. It's a reminder that there are still mysteries out there, things we can't easily explain. And for the people who answer those calls, the 911 operators, it's a heavy burden to bear.
Absolutely. They're the unsung heroes, the ones who listen to our fears in our darkest moments. We don't often think about the toll it takes on them.
We should. They deserve all the support and understanding we can give them.
So, listeners, what do you make of all this? Does it change how you view the world, the nature of time, the power of grief? There's a lot to ponder here, and maybe, just maybe, we'll never have all the answers.
Thanks for taking this deep dive with us. Until next time, keep questioning, keep exploring, and remember, sometimes the most unsettling mysteries are the ones that hit closest to home.
And don't forget, folks, if you hear strange noises in the night, it might just be an echo from another reality.
That's going to give me nightmares. But thanks for joining us on the Deep Dives.
See you next time.
Welcome to another Deep Dive. We asked you to send us some source material, and boy, did you deliver.
Oh, yeah.
We're going to really pull out some of the fascinating bits.
Some really interesting stuff.
Yeah, and today's Deep Dive is going to be a little unsettling, a little eerie even.
Definitely.
We're looking at documented experiences from 911 dispatchers encountering the inexplicable.
Right.
And we're going to be looking specifically at firsthand accounts from dispatchers. And these accounts, I got to say, these are the kind of stories that really stick with you.
Oh, absolutely. I mean, these are the people who answer the call in the middle of the night, when something goes bump,
Right.
and they're trained to stay calm, to be that reassuring voice on the other end of the line.
Right. They've heard it all.
Exactly.
Yeah.
So when they report something that just doesn't make sense, it really makes you wonder what else might be out there.
Absolutely. And that's exactly what we're going to be doing today.
That's right.
We're going to explore these unsettling events, try to understand what happened in these moments as best we can,
Right.
and consider some of the wider implications.
Exactly. Push the boundaries of what we think we know.
Exactly. So let's dive right in.
Let's do it.
Our first account comes from a guy named Ryan Caldwell.
Okay.
Now, Ryan had a pretty interesting background. He was a radio frequency engineer by day,
Interesting.
and he volunteered as a dispatcher in rural West Virginia.
So he knows his way around radio waves.
No, he knows his stuff.
Yeah.
And this happened on June 7th, 2009, a Sunday night,
Okay.
and presumably a quieter shift than usual.
Right.
And then Ryan receives this incoming signal
Oh.
on a decommissioned analog frequency.
Yeah, that's strange.
It's impossible.
Right. I mean, decommissioned, that means it's not even in use anymore.
Exactly. And not only that, but as a radio expert, Ryan knew that this particular older type of signal that the department wasn't even using anymore, it had been completely upgraded the system.
So it's not just a misdial or a glitch. It's like this signal is coming from a system that doesn't even exist anymore.
That's exactly it. And to make things even more strange, the content of this impossible call was chilling.
Oh, boy.
It was a young girl. She identified herself as Emma, and she sounded absolutely terrified, but also strangely composed.
Okay.
As she reported that her mother was being hurt by her mother's boyfriend, Rick, at 418 Parkway Drive.
Oh, that's awful.
It's a horrible situation.
Yeah.
And she even gives this very specific detail. She mentions that Rick has a snake tattoo on his neck.
So she's giving clear information in the midst of this chaos.
Exactly. And you can just imagine the tension in the dispatch center, you know?
I bet.
As Ryan's listening to this, trying to get more information. And then Emma says that she hears Rick coming back.
Oh, no.
And you hear this violent entry over the line.
Oh, my gosh.
And then the call just cuts off.
Just like that.
Dead silence.
Wow.
The frequency goes completely silent.
It's not just a drop call. It's like the connection itself just vanished.
Right. It's like it never even existed.
That's creepy.
And that's what's so unsettling about all of this, right? Like the details of the call itself are disturbing.
Absolutely.
But it's the impossible nature of the transmission that really makes it stick with you.
Yeah, you said that Emma sounded terrified, but strangely composed.
Yes.
That detail is really interesting to me because it's like she's detached from the horror of what's happening, in a way.
It's almost like she's resigned to it.
Right. And that takes on a whole other level of unsettling meaning when we consider what comes next.
Exactly. So, of course, the deputies are sent to 418 Parkway Drive
Yeah.
to check on the situation, and what
Yeah.
they find is deeply disturbing.
What do they find?
The house has been vacant for nearly 2 decades.
Vacant.
It was the site of a murder-suicide back in 1991.
1991.
A man named Richard Rick Chambers murdered his girlfriend and her 8-year-old daughter, Emma Lawrence, before killing himself.
Hold on a second. You're saying the names and the address match up?
Exactly.
That's too much to be a coincidence.
It's just too specific, right? Like, it can't be just random chance.
Right. This is like looking at a mirror image of the past.
And it gets weirder. The original records from that 1991 murder-suicide, there was no 911 call ever placed.
But Emma clearly called for help.
But if Emma never made that call, then who was Ryan talking to?
Yeah. Who was on the other end of that line?
I mean, and the technical investigation that followed it ruled out any possibility of a prank.
So this wasn't someone messing around.
No way.
And you said that the frequency was decommissioned.
Yeah.
So how is that even possible?
Well, that's the thing. The decommissioned frequency actually registered activity for the exact duration of this phantom call.
So it's like the frequency was reactivated just for that call.
Right. And it perfectly aligns with the timeline of the original 1991 attack.
Okay, so we've got a call from a decommissioned frequency, a young girl reporting a murder that happened almost 20 years before the call. And the call itself seems to sync up perfectly with the timeline of the original event. This is stretching the boundaries of what we understand about time and communication.
It really is.
There's no easy explanation for this.
No, and there are theories out there that try to make sense of this type of event.
Like what?
Well, one interpretation, and this is often referred to as like a paranormal or spiritual theory,
Okay.
it posits a cross-timeline communication.
Okay.
The idea is that this moment of intense trauma somehow echoed or bled through from the past,
Like a ripple in time.
almost like a recording imprinted onto the fabric of reality.
So it's not that Emma was literally calling from the past, but that the event itself somehow left this trace that could be accessed later.
Right. It's a way of trying to grapple with something that just defies a logical explanation.
It makes you think about what else might be out there, just beyond our perception.
It's a truly mind-bending concept.
It is.
And it clearly had a profound impact on Ryan. He actually ended up transferring shifts, eventually left dispatch altogether.
Wow. So even though he had this technical background, this event really shook him.
Yeah, he couldn't just shake it off.
Right, because how do you explain that?
Exactly. And what's even more interesting is that he admits that even now, all these years later, he still monitors those old frequencies.
Really?
Yeah, and he claims that sometimes he hears these fragments, like a word, a breath, maybe even a child's whisper, and he always answers.
I mean, I can't even imagine what that must be like.
It's almost like he feels a sense of responsibility.
Right. Like he's waiting for another call from the past.
Exactly, and it really speaks to the fact that sometimes there just aren't answers.
Sometimes you just have to live with the mystery.
All right, so let's move on to our second account.
Okay.
And this one comes from Catherine Winters, a former dispatcher for the Boston Police Department.
Boston PD, right?
And her story revolved around a building with a really unsettling reputation, the Harmon Building.
The Harmon Building.
Yeah, apparently within the department there was just this pervasive sense that something was wrong with that place.
Like a bad vibe.
Yeah, particularly concerning calls that originated from the 3rd floor.
Oh, so it's not just the building itself, but specifically the 3rd floor.
The 3rd floor had a history.
Okay, I'm intrigued. Tell me more.
Well, the thing about these 3rd floor calls is that they consistently occurred in the early hours of the morning, between like 2 and 4 a.m.
The witching hour.
Right. And they always involve lone callers
Yeah.
and often began with the same unsettling phrase, "There's someone in my apartment."
That's creepy, especially if it's happening over and over again.
Yeah, it suggests that there's something more going on than just random incidents.
It's like a pattern, a recurring phenomenon linked to that specific location.
Right, and the call that really affected Catherine happened on November 12th, 2005 at 3:12 a.m.
3:12 a.m.
The caller was Michael Reed reporting from apartment 307.
3:07, got it.
He reported an intruder, but not a typical one. He said this figure walked right through his bedroom wall.
Walk through the wall.
That's what he said.
Okay, that's not your everyday break-in.
Not at all.
So what did this intruder look like?
Michael described him as tall, wearing an old-fashioned suit with a blurry face and shadow-like hands.
Blurry face, shadow hands? That sounds like something out of a nightmare.
It does, right? And he said that the hands couldn't quite make physical contact, like they were almost intangible.
So not a typical burglar then.
No, not at all.
It's like something spectral, something
Yes.
not entirely of this world.
Exactly.
And you said this happened on the 3rd floor?
Apartment 307.
So there's already this weird history with the 3rd floor, and now we have this figure walking through walls. Mm-hmm. This is getting stranger by the minute.
And it gets even more bizarre. The shadowy figure then starts scratching at the bathroom door,
Okay.
which Michael had locked.
Our move.
But the door opens anyway.
What?
Yeah, and then the intruder points toward the bathroom wall.
Points at the wall.
Points right at it.
What is going on?
So Michael, compelled by this gesture, he starts removing some of the newer tiles on the bathroom wall.
Like he's being guided by this intruder?
Yeah, and what he discovers is truly horrifying.
What does he find?
A hand wrapped in plastic.
Oh my God.
It's hidden behind the wall.
So this isn't just a random intruder. This is something much darker.
Right. It's like this entity, whatever it is, it's not there to harm Michael in a conventional sense.
It's like it's trying to communicate something to reveal a hidden truth.
Exactly.
This is giving me chills.
And as Michael continues to remove the tiles, he uncovers more, eventually seeing the intruder's face more clearly.
Okay, yeah.
But it's a horrifying image. It's described as decaying with missing features.
Oh God.
He drops the phone, screams, and the line goes dead.
Of course it does.
When the police arrive, the apartment is empty, the door's locked from the inside.
Just like in the first story.
But there's blood on the broken bathroom tiles, and it doesn't match Michael's.
So someone was hurt, but it wasn't Michael.
Right, and the discovery behind the wall, it seems to confirm what this intruder was trying to show Michael.
So they find more body parts.
They find partial human remains later identified as Raymond Harmon,
Raymond Harmon.
who had been missing since 1956. And get this,
What?
he was the grandson of the building's original owner.
So this is tied to the building's history.
And there were rumors that he was involved in the disappearances of other tenants in the 1950s.
Oh, wow. So this is like layers upon layers of mystery.
And it all seems to be centered around this 3rd floor.
So it's not just a random haunting. It's like the building itself is holding on to these secrets, these tragedies.
And then it takes an even darker turn. They find more remains.
More?
Partial skeletons of at least 7 individuals,
7 individuals.
including one with a watch that matched a tenant who had gone missing in 1998 after reporting an intruder.
So this has been going on for decades.
And Catherine herself ended up taking 5 more similar calls from different 3rd floor tenants over the next couple of years.
Oh my God.
All echoing that same initial encounter, there's someone in my apartment.
Leading to the discovery of more hidden remains. This is more than just a few isolated incidents. This points to something much larger and much more sinister connected to this building.
It's like a pattern of tragedy that just keeps repeating itself.
It makes you wonder what kind of energy is trapped in that building, drawing people in.
The Harmon building was eventually condemned in 2008
Thank goodness.
and subsequently demolished.
Good riddance, I say.
But the night before the demolition, Catherine received one final call
Are you serious?
from apartment 307.
307 again.
At that same eerie time, 3:12 a.m.,
No way.
and it was Michael Reed's voice.
But he disappeared.
That's right. But it was his voice saying that he was now part of the wall, and that the land itself, not just the building, was the source of the haunting.
The land. So even though they tore down the building, the problem might still be there.
And get this, he knew Catherine's name.
He knew her name.
He knew her name.
How is that even possible?
The call ended with this distorted voice stating, "He's here! They're all here! And soon others will join them."
That's bone chilling.
It's a truly horrifying thought that even though the building is gone, whatever was happening there might not be over.
Right. It's like a stain that can't be erased.
And it really makes you think about the places we inhabit, the history that's soaked into the very ground beneath our feet.
Right. The things we can't see, but might still be there lurking just beneath the surface.
It's no wonder Catherine left emergency services after that.
I can't blame her.
And she reportedly avoids the park that's now located on the site.
Yeah, I would too.
It's a chilling reminder that sometimes the past isn't truly past.
It can linger in ways we don't fully understand.
Okay, so let's move on to our final account.
Okay, shoot.
And this one comes from Alan Crawford, a dispatcher in rural eastern Kentucky.
Out of Eastern Kentucky.
And he mentioned that in a rural setting, you often have this personal connection with the people you're dispatching for.
Right. It's a closer community. Everyone knows each other.
Exactly. And this call came in on April 15th, 2013, from a 79-year-old woman named Edith Glover.
Edith Glover.
She was reporting a break-in at her isolated farmhouse.
Isolated farmhouse in the middle of the night. That's already scary.
Yeah, it's a recipe for a horror movie, right?
Right.
So Mrs. Glover is alone, and it's going to take some time for the deputies to reach her.
Oh, no.
She describes hearing sounds of forced entry, her fear growing, and her attempts to barricade herself in her bedroom.
Oh, God, she must have been terrified.
She even relays a message for her grandson, Paul, about a letter hidden behind a painting.
A letter? Wasn't the letter?
We'll get to that.
Okay.
So then the intruder breaks through the door,
Oh, no.
and Mrs. Glover says something absolutely unbelievable. She recognizes the intruder as her deceased husband, David,
Her deceased husband.
who had been dead for 13 years.
But how is that possible?
That's the million-dollar question, right?
It defies all logic.
And she describes him as looking decayed, and he tells her that he's come to take her with him.
Oh, my God.
She lets out a scream, the phone line stays open, and then there's just silence.
That's so creepy.
When the deputies finally arrive, they find Mrs. Glover dead from a heart attack.
Oh, no.
There are no signs of forced entry. All the doors and windows are locked from the inside.
So there was no intruder.
But here's the truly shocking part. The rigor mortis indicated that Mrs. Glover had been dead for approximately 12 hours before she even made the 911 call.
Wait, so you're saying she was already dead when she called for help?
That's what it looks like.
But how is that even remotely possible?
That's what's so baffling about this whole thing.
It's like something out of the Twilight Zone.
I know, and Alan the dispatcher, he couldn't find any rational explanation for it.
Yeah, I'm not surprised.
Then they discover the letter she had written to her grandson the day before.
The letter she mentioned in the call.
Yeah, and in it she describes a dream she had of David coming for her
Oh, no?
and of her calling 911 with help arriving too late.
So it's like she had a premonition of her own death.
And of this bizarre 911 call that seemingly occurred hours after she had already passed away.
That's too freaky.
It really is like she somehow knew what was going to happen.
So we have a call from someone who's already dead, a premonition of that very call. This is making my head spin.
It really makes you question everything we think we know about time.
Right, like what if our perception of time isn't as linear as we believe it to be?
What if the past, the present, and the future are all somehow intertwined?
That's a heavy thought.
It is, and Alan, understandably, is still troubled by this event. His own working theory is that Mrs. Glover's final, terrifying hallucination somehow echoed backward in time,
Like go backward.
manifesting as the 911 call.
So it's like her fear, her experience somehow imprinted itself onto the past.
Exactly. He's since left dispatch, and he reflects on the meaning of delayed response in this impossible scenario.
Delayed response.
Because from her perspective, help had already failed to arrive even before the call was made.
Wow, that's a deeply unsettling thought.
It really makes you question the nature of time and our ability to intervene in events that might already be predetermined.
It's like a cosmic joke in a way.
Yeah, a very dark joke.
Yeah.
These three accounts, as you can hear, they're deeply unsettling, and they resist any easy explanation.
Absolutely.
And it's important to remember that these aren't just spooky stories told around a campfire. These are documented experiences reported by trained professionals.
Right. These are people whose job it is to deal with reality in its most raw and chaotic forms.
Exactly, and yet they're encountering events that simply don't fit into any logical framework.
It really makes you wonder what else might be out there. You know, what other mysteries are hidden in plain sight?
So what could possibly account for these events? Could there be limitations to our current understanding of reality, of the nature of time?
Maybe our brains, our senses are only capable of perceiving a small fraction of what's actually happening around us.
And what about communication?
Yeah.
You know, could there be ways in which it can bend or warp in ways that we don't yet comprehend?
Right, like we're so used to thinking about communication as this linear thing, but what if it's not?
These stories also really underscore the often unseen emotional and psychological burdens carried by emergency dispatchers.
Oh, absolutely. They're the first line of response. They hear the fear, the desperation in people's voices.
And they have to stay calm, they have to be the voice of reason in the midst of chaos.
And as we've heard today, sometimes they encounter situations that defy any rational explanation.
Exactly, and that can take a toll.
It makes you wonder what kind of support systems are in place for these individuals who are dealing with the unthinkable on a regular basis.
It's a really important question and one that deserves more attention.
Absolutely.
So we've heard 3 very different accounts today, each with its own unique set of unsettling details.
The first one hinted at a possible temporal anomaly.
Right.
The second suggested a localized haunting tied to a specific location in its tragic history.
And the third one presented a more personal and internally experienced event that seemed to defy the linear progression of time.
It's like we've only scratched the surface of what's possible.
Exactly, and that's what makes these stories so compelling and so thought-provoking. They force us to confront the limits of our own understanding.
And to acknowledge that there might be more to reality than meets the eye.
It really leaves you with a provocative thought, doesn't it?
It does.
Could there be other silent witnesses in our world? What other unexplained phenomena might be occurring just beyond our everyday perception, with us completely unaware?
The thought is both fascinating and terrifying.
It is. It's a reminder that we're still exploring the vast unknown and that there are still mysteries out there waiting to be uncovered.
And maybe some mysteries are best left undisturbed.
Thanks for taking this deep dive with us.
It's been a wild ride.
Until next time, keep those sources coming and keep looking beyond the surface of things you never know what you might find.
And keep the lights on.
Good advice.
You never know what's lurking in the shadows.
Good night, everybody.
Sweet dream.
Or maybe not.
Maybe not.
Okay. Good night for real.
Good night.